was in the military for 6 years. I was in the Navy. I was a corpsman. So I was a Greenside corpsman. So I was attached to the Marine Corps as a field medic, essentially. So I have one combat deployment to Iraq. And yeah, after 6 years of service, I got med retired. And then I struggled with, I was diagnosed with PTSD and a mild TBI. And then that's kind of where like my mental health journey began, I guess. I was younger and I was kind of naive to the fact that like mental health is real, and once I got like the more I got separated from my service, the guys I served with and the uniform, I started to notice like something was wrong though, and then that led me into a few years of drugs and alcohol and rehabs in and out of facilities and everything like that. So I'm no stranger to feeling like something deep down inside is wrong. Um, Probably even before I ever went to Iraq, 'cause I grew up in a family that struggled with mental health and addiction as well. But yeah. So I think there were probably some like cracks in my foundation that came to fruition a little bit later on. So I kind of grew up a little funky. I went to Iraq. I had seen some combat, and then a little bit after that, like my effects with PTSD were delayed a bit, and then I was divorced, and that kind of I think probably from 24 to 30, I was just going to school part-time, using the GI Bill, struggling part-time to keep my head above water a little bit. But ultimately, I was like lost in the sauce there for a bit. And unfortunately, like traditional methods or routes to really cure or treat some of the deep, deep stuff there, it was ineffective. Like I love talk therapy. I really do. And I'm a big advocate for mental health. But unfortunately, I feel like I hit a wall there a long time ago. And it was just the traditional methods. Here's some pills, here's some therapy, we'll see in 6 weeks. And I did that for years, and that was kind of their approach even before I picked up the drink or the drugs. Yeah, I had been on their retreat in the past, so I do have experience with, and I know it works. For a fact, I don't have to have that debate with anybody. I don't have to try to explain it to anybody. I know that I've healed immensely. This is the best I've done as an adult in my entire life. And it's a miracle to be able to say that. But I first heard about the retreat through a friend, and then just kind of how men of integrity it got brought up, and like the circumstance that it did, it was odd, or it was God. So it just felt right. It felt right. And then I met with Mike, and then within 15 minutes of that phone call or the Zoom call, I was crying, and I knew that the guy on the other side of that, the computer screen knew what it was like to work with people just like me, and it was apparent the questions he was listening, and it was just I didn't have to explain A, B, and C and D going all the way back there. He just kind of knew the emotions that I was doing. So Men of Integrity came highly recommended from a person that I trust, and he told me that he had healed immensely, and it wasn't just for combat vets. It just wasn't just for addicts. It was essentially like, let's get down to the nuts and bolts on why I tick the way that I do, and I came here essentially I wanted to continue my healing journey, and I didn't know exactly what that looked like. I do know that I've struggled with shame probably like the vast majority of my life, feeling like there was something wrong with me, or I'm doing something wrong. So I guess originally my like first few intentions to come here were forgiveness, and I wanted just shed some of the old shame, like let me come into myself a little bit. It's beautiful, it's perfect, uh the staff, the guys from like top to the bottom, I couldn't say anything better or higher about if I tried. I really couldn't. They're human, they're knowledgeable, they're welcoming, they're insightful, they're loving, they're forgiving, they're vulnerable. Uh, I don't know. So then the house when we all walked into, it's like, is this really a real house? There's a lake and there's beautiful backyard, trees, it's like 3 layers. The food was all set up and everything. We didn't have to do anything at all. It was just inviting, safe. Like I didn't even have to assess if it was safe or not. I felt it like right away, like warm hugs from the staff. Hey, come on, guys. And the house is amazing. It's probably like the nicest house I've ever been in. But yeah, I think that kind of, it's even having experience with in the past, there's still like a level of apprehension and nervousness, and you could call it healthy fear, and then that's good, right? But it was like when we first walked through the door, not knowing exactly what we're getting into, but as soon as like the staff was at the door and greeted us, like all that stuff just went to the wayside. What words will allow me to so how was the retreat? It was it's a trip that these words are about to come out like that are these words are about to come out of my mouth. It was the single most impactful spiritual moment I've ever had in my entire life by far. It was structured, uh, was respected. It was done in a ceremony setting. Staff was knowledgeable. I was ready. I thought I was ready. And then, but even then, I went, I thought I came in here looking for forgiveness and shedding some of the shame. I thought that that's what I came here for. Um, it's almost like hard to put into words. I went somewhere on my journey, and I went somewhere that I didn't know that we can go, and I came back and I had probably the most like profound talks I've ever had with a human being in my entire life, and it was, and it's funny, I came out of there and I'm not like the biggest, like, I'm not the biggest person of faith, or so that I thought. And when I was coming back from my trip, and it was an intense trip. It was challenging, but it was worth it. And if I had to go back again, I would do it again. I would. But I came back from wherever I went, and it was me and the facilitator was like I was tethered back to reality by like talks of God, like why we're here as humans, and like why it's important and sacred for us to connect as people. Like I need other people, and times in my past I've probably been done wrong by other people, and including myself. So I think on the journey with like I realized that I deep down inside I thought something was wrong with me, or I was doing something wrong. And then also the other thing that was revealed to me was like my search for spirituality is mine, and I get the opportunity to seek knowledge from people that are more versed, in a safe, conducive environment. And it was again, it was the single most impactful trip that I've ever had, and also like the most profound spiritual experiences I've ever had in my life by far. Good question. I'm glad you asked. Act two of my story. God's there. Brotherhood is there. There's probably a level of like ideally vulnerability and tenacity, if you would, the masculine and the feminine. But there was a large majority of my life I wish that I had somebody else's. And especially after Iraq and like the drug addiction, I would wake up just to feelings of, dude, I don't want this life. Like what if I can go to sleep and just like not wake up? And I thought that for a really, really long time. And I don't know, man. I think some of those scars that we pick up along the way of our journeys, some of them, like they stick with us, and I think going forward to this act two, I don't have to be like the white trash kid whose parents did dope. I don't have to be the dude who was hurting rap. I don't have to be the dude who broke up with this old lady because he couldn't keep it together. I can learn from those. My past isn't a life sentence. If anything, if I can look back at where the lessons needed to be learned and apply them going forward, I think that's as close as like a blank slate as we can get as humans, and it's it's exciting. You know, I'm nervous because I know growth isn't supposed to come super duper easy or comfortable, you know, but I think what I was afforded on this trip, I was exposed to probably like some, I want to say harsh realities about myself, but some truthful uh, facts, you know, I'm forgiven already. I really am, you know, and I'm not my past, you know, and then I have a beautiful, beautiful life in front of me. If I stay buttoned up and connected and I search and I seek spirituality and I stay connected to people that who know a little bit more than I do and seek counsel and mentorship, there's no reason that, you know, that, that I won't have kids, or that there's no reason that I would wake up in the morning not wanting to be here. You know what I mean? It's like excited to see what these chapters have. I get to apply to grad school this semester, which is a trip for me, and I get to bounce those fears off of people. And like, am I good enough? Do I deserve A, B, and C? You know what I mean? But I honestly think that if I take the lessons here and work on it during the integration phases, that there's no reason on the planet that I can't be healthy and thriving with a family and a career one day.